Have you ever heard the old saying, they just don't build them like they used to? Well, should we build them like they used to? And could we if we chose? Let's talk about it today on Build Baby Build. All right, guys. So the theme of today's episode of Build Baby Build is they don't build them like they used to. I guess that's in houses and apparently in home builders as well. So what I'd like to do is each of us will introduce ourselves and start here. Scott.
I'm Scott Knight, Jay's uncle, Perry's brother, and Chris's dad. And it's been a pleasure working with these guys all these years. We're real thankful for each and every moment of it. And grandfather got 10 grandkids and 6 children, and it's just been a real blessing.
Nice.
Okay, I'm Perry Knight. I'm the senior member of this group. I got 2 kids, 4 grandchildren, 8 great grandchildren, and I am a home builder. Used to be.
Yeah, you are.
I'm Chris Knight. I'm Scott's son and Jay's cousin and Perry's nephew. And I've been in home building 28 years full time and 47 years of observation time with these guys. Married, I have 3 young adult children, and I think collectively we've probably been involved in building over somewhere around 15,000 homes in Georgia and Alabama.
Wow,
So
that's crazy. And you got, I think you got 9 grandkids, great grandkids.
yeah, you do.
Okay.
Pretty sure because I've got 9 grandkids.
That's pretty good. Man, let me see.
Yeah. Well,
Kaylin's got 3. Eddie's got 4. Yeah.
John's
You're
got
right.
2. Yeah. Well, yeah, today it happened. He was so good at math for so long, you know it. But so Chris, to his point, we've been doing this we're wrapping up our 5th decade as a family, building homes in predominantly Georgia, but some across the Southeast. And so it's been really good. How did, I was a teenager when y'all started Knight Construction and Knight Homes, or Knight Framing Contractors, but you guys had been introduced to some construction prior to that with your dad, hadn't you?
Yeah, our father had a remodeling business for a while, and that's an exercise in self-hatred. It's a tough business, and it's a struggle to try to make a living at it. And but we did learn a little something.
Would y'all both? Could y'all?
No, actually, I was around more. Scott was a little young for that part, wasn't you?
I remember it, though.
Yeah.
I still got a business card that he had that says Knight Home Improvements. The phone number was Butler 9 something. DU 9 something, I don't remember.
So that was, how old do you think you were, Dad? You guys are 10 years apart.
I think I was about 13 or so when I started falling around a little bit. Got to do little odd jobs. I did some painting, picking up, and just general stuff.
And then when you were a teenager, didn't you and Harold work on I knew you did some blasting, and I didn't know what other jobs you did.
Well, I worked with a pipeline company before I went in the military, and we did some blasting. Back then, you didn't have track drills. You had you hand drilled, so it looked like a big jackhammer, and you put the drills on it. And you drilled down so far, you added a piece to it. Then you just cover it up, take your lead wires, or you take your dynamite, put your blasting caps in the end of it. It's dynamite soft anyway. Put your blasting caps in the end of it, drop them down in the hole, and cover the hole up. Test the lead wires to the battery of the backhoe. And that'd go everywhere.
So nothing bad could happen in that.
Nah, we just hid behind the backhoe.
So this is all happening. That's late 60s for you before you went in the military.
60-something, yeah.
And for you, that's early 50s. Then you finish school and go on to school, and you start your family in the 60s.
Yep.
And then 70s come around. Scott is in Vietnam the first part of the 70s. you're building your family. And somewhere in the mid 70s, my first memory of you guys or you doing anything, Dad. I know you did part-time painting, and then you built a big deck on the back of our house. And how'd you learn to do that? Was that just, there was no internet?
We I don't just learn as you go, I guess. Some of it was guesswork. Some of it just observing what had been done before. But we did a lot of odd jobs. We did some. We did anything. Room addition.
You talking you and Scott?
Yeah. Yeah, we built a couple of decks, built some room additions, did some roofing. I actually contracted the roofing. I don't think we actually nailed any roofing on. Yeah, we did what it took to make a couple bucks.
Yeah. And then I remember when Chris was born over on Rock Cut Road, y'all built that deck on the back of your house.
We did.
And it seemed like that was when y'all figured out you could do this thing and started doing everything. I remember being in the truck with y'all, and there would be boxes of business cards. It was night painters, night roofers, I don't know, night remodeling, night contract. If I didn't know anything else, I knew what my name was. Well, so Chris, this is all happening. You're baby, but it was, I mean, I was a teenager, and it's dominating a big part of our free time. When did you start remembering? Do you remember when you remember?
Yeah, I remember Dad leaving the house when I was about 3 years old, before dark. And I remember the white van. And I remember, do I remember a baby blue truck?
Yep.
And I had to be 3, 4 years old.
Yeah.
And then I remember being on job sites when I was probably 4 or 5, playing in the sand pile.
Yeah, I remember you being around. That blue truck, I was driving it from Riverdale over to pick up Doodlebug and Terry, two of the guys on the crew, and didn't realize that it was, somebody was always working on cars. We used to come home to your house after framing, and your cousin Anthony meet us over there, and we'd start working on that van at 8 o'clock in the evening. It seemed like it was every day. I know it wasn't. And that went on till 10 or 11 o'clock.
Sometime 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And then the next morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, driving that thing to work again. And, but that blue truck, I jumped in it and shouldn't have. And I went driving probably 15 miles. And do y'all remember this? The valve covers were off of it. And it just crystallized the engine, man. I mean, I was over in Riverdale on a frontage road. And, that was bad.
It wasn't very much anyway.
Was there a burgundy van too?
Yeah, we had a burgundy and antique.
Yeah, our rolling stock was iffy, always iffy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty rough. So that's the kind of, you're doing all the remodeling and stuff, and you landed on framing. Now, I want to tell the story the way I remember it.
I like
okay?
it. So,
So the way I remember the story is we're running aluminum siding on a house in Forest Park. Guy pulls up to the curb, and he rolls down the window and says, "Can you guys frame a house?" And we'd never seen a house being framed. And Scott was 28 years old. It was 1978. And Scott starts walking towards the guy in his car, and he says, "Frame houses, man, that's all we do." And the guy said, "Okay." And he gave us a job. And apparently that's not the way it happened. But I swear, I've been repeating that story. At Christmas, I get invited up to tell that story to all the company. And I feel like an orphan that just discovered I was adopted, and or maybe y'all are wrong. But in any case,
Yeah, I trust your memory.
thank you. So so we go frame a house for this guy. He was a renowned builder. I think I worked with you on the weekends then, but y'all would tell stories when you come back about crowning studs and all that. Carl Stanley, y'all went and framed the house. And so what was that like the first time you do it?
Well, Carl was a perfectionist. He was an old Lithuanian and built a bunch of Levittown after the war. and he came in there. I remember we were framing, and he didn't think we knew anything, and we didn't. And but we started put floor joists on the house, and we knew you crowned the joist up. And he said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. I said, what are you talking about, Carl? He said, I'm gonna plane those joists. I said, plane them. He said, yeah. He said, y'all just. I said, look, we can't sit around here for you to plane all these joists. We got a crew out here. We need to go to work. He said, well, y'all just put them on the sawhorses. I'll plane them. Y'all come back tomorrow and you can put them on the house. So he flattened every one of those joists. I mean, they were straight as an arrow. And that's the only time in my life to today I've ever seen that happen. But if I'm not mistaken, that's what happened.
Yeah, he was a real particular guy. He had a big reputation, though.
Yeah.
So what happens is y'all finish the house for Stemmy, and you're at some lumber company. And oh no, it was you called Lanson. You said Lanson Signs.
Yeah.
And what would happen then? Because there wasn't a lot of building going on. This is 1979, 80.
Yeah, when we didn't have a job to do, our job was to find a job. So we'd go around and look for jobs, and saw real estate sign, Lanson Homes or whatever. They were real estate company, and they were the builders. And so I called the number there and asked to speak to Mr. Lanson, but it was actually Lanier and Sonny, two guys. Wasn't no Mr. Lanson, but we go over there and talk to Lanier, who was I don't know, but he knew Carl Stemmy, and he was impressed by the fact that we had framed one house for Carl Stemmy, and he hired us, and we stayed with him for a long time. Yeah, we did all their framing pretty quickly. Business had been so bad for so long. While we had guys that were so much more experienced than we were, come by looking for jobs because it just wasn't anything to do.
And so what happens is you guys are collecting these other guys looking for work, and you're developing your system and learning from them. And because what I remember is within 6 months to a year after you started, you're framing a house every day, drying in about 1,800 square feet a day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we ran into something that I didn't understand, I'd tell Perry. He'd say, where you going? I said, we're going to the library. Now, we didn't go to the library. We'd go find something that we needed to see and go back and work on it.
I think y'all used to use Polaroid camera and take pictures out on Josh House and stuff.
I don't remember the camera, but I just know we go find a job that was like the job we were doing. And
yeah, we wanted to make sure we were doing it right.
Well, it seemed like the overall housing business was pretty slow, but it was a good time for us to be learning the business during that time. So I remember the conversation in the van, Chris, the white van we're driving, and they had saved all their money from framing houses and built this house down in Jonesboro. And the conversation was, if this thing doesn't sell pretty quick, Scott and Chris were going to move on one side of the house, and me and Dad were going to live on the other. And I was about 16, almost 17. I thought that'd be kind of cool. It was like going on a camp out, but it wasn't what they really want to do. I could tell even when they were talking about it. So the house sells. What were interest rates on that house?
I think it was 16%.
Yeah.
It was unreal.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time. We didn't have everything together at the time. We built it not quite like some of these guys do these motels now, but it was a little slower because we paid cash for everything as we went.
Yeah.
Didn't have enough to finish it when we started. We dug the doggone water line about 200 feet by hand.
I think we dug the footings.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and Scott laid the block. I know he'd done work block with I can't think of the guy's name now.
Yeah.
Scott was a block mason. They laid the block. Yeah.
So you guys saved enough money to build a house. And you're right. We didn't save up whatever it cost back then, $60,000, and built it. You did it as you had money. You poured the footing, and It took about a year to build the house, you think?
Now, I don't think it took that long.
Didn't take that long.
We had enough to get it dried in before we started. We didn't start. Yeah.
Okay. So then I remember getting the phone call in 1981. This guy, Jimmy Carter, and that was the name of the realtor. He was not related to the president. And he said, he said, can I speak to Perry? I said, well, he's not here. They were all framing houses. And he said, I think I got that house sold in Jonesboro. And man, I remember I yelled. I was like, yeah, me and Crystal had to be roommates. And I'm thinking, it's so weird now to think about celebrating so hard for that house. And you mentioned the fact that we've sold about 15,000 houses since then. That's been amazing. So we're going to get somewhere. The point of this is I'm very, very concerned about the barrier to entry in the business today. Back then, we framed houses for the first publicly traded builder around, I think, was U.S. Homes, or the first ones that were present in Atlanta. And we framed houses for U.S. Homes over off 138. Bovis Brunning moved in the area, but they were kind of hit and miss for a while. But that was a very, very small part of home building in Atlanta. Now I think, Chris, what do you think the number is?
The number of public home
Yeah, and what percentage of the market do they?
10 to 15, and they control probably 60% of the market.
Yeah. So that's different.
In 2007, before the great financial crisis, the top 10 builders in Atlanta controlled 17% of the market.
What's that now?
It's about 60 to 70.
Oh my goodness. So it's essentially the same logic as Walmart coming to town and all the storefronts on Main Street closed down.
Sure.
Okay. So you guys save money, build a house, and then it's like the old Tony commercial. I think it was named that shampoo. You did 2 more, and then you did 2 more, and then you did 2 more, and it seemed like that's the way it went. At what point did you decide to start developing land?
When we found out we couldn't get any lots to build on,
Yeah.
everything we did was need basis. Couldn't get anybody to grade a lot, and we bought a cheap secondhand loader, and Scott became a loader operator. He's pretty adaptive with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But and we started developing lots because we didn't have a lot to build on. And we did things. First thing we did was John Mitchell over there in Ashley
Estates, yeah.
Yeah. The real estate salesman sold us the land, was also a developer, and so we became partners on that job. We partnered with him on a couple of jobs, and so we developed that at Ashley Estates and West Winds,
Then Panhandle.
Panhandle, yeah. So
What I'm really asking you to get in your Wayback Machine on this because it's 40 years ago. But do you remember the zoning or permitting processes, the time frame or anything like that?
one of the main obstacles we had early on was our fellow man. Nobody wants houses in their neighborhood for whatever reason. We've been to zoning meetings where crowds of people show up to disagree. We have people that say, I drive by this property every day on my way to work, and I like it like it is. There's really a lot of rational stuff. We've had meetings where a church was having a radio tower on their property, and the neighborhoods didn't like that. So they came down to fight that, and we haven't have a zoning request at the same time. And so since they were against that, they went ahead and against us too.
Yep.
And it just was crazy. That was some of the main thing. And the county commissioners and stuff, they paid a lot of attention to those people. They were voters.
Yeah.
And they, and so that was one of the main obstacles back then. We had at Mungie Ridge, it took us a year to zone that piece because they turned it down because the neighbors didn't want it. and then we filed a suit, which was kind of the thing they did in those days. And suit played out, ran its course. A year later, they said, "Okay, we never went to court." They said, you can have the zoning now." So
And then when you get the zoning, you permitted it. Do you remember, Scott, about how long it took to get a permit after you got zoned?
For development,
Yeah.
well, you get the engineering done, and you'd submit that. They would usually take 2 to 3 weeks to look at the engineering, and they would redline it and give it back to you. And you'd have to go back to the engineer, so they'd get another 2 to 3 weeks. But in the meantime, a lot of times they would let you go ahead and start development with the red line plans. You had all their comments on it, so they didn't always hold you right to waiting that next 3 weeks.
So you could at least clear the property.
Yeah, and sometime you just go behind the woods line and start clearing anyway. But because you wait, they keep you waiting. But the development, the engineer would give you sheets that it'd have the sewer profile, the storm drain profile, the grading profile. You'd have those things. There wasn't a whole lot of erosion back then. I mean, there might have been some erosion, but there was not any plans for it. And so you wouldn't have but 5 or 6 sheets. Now you get a plan approved for 3 lots, you might have 52 sheets, and it's so anyway. But they work with you real well. I think part of the problem is, I think today that it takes so long to get these things done, and I think it's these people are content. They're fine with sitting there. We always had to have a sense of urgency to go to work and try to get this stuff done, and we had to be committed to it to make a living. And I don't think that the people that are in charge of these places anymore have that commitment. I don't think they have a sense of urgency, and I certainly don't think that I certainly believe they're content, because they don't lose anything. If it takes them 2 months to get you a plan or a permit, it doesn't hurt them at all. So.
No. Chris, if we went through a zoning today and it got turned down and we went through a lawsuit to get the zoning, they got that all done within a year in 1984. What do you think that would look like today?
Well, there are local counties in South Metro that take 12 to 15 months to hear your case. Sometimes you spent $150,000 before you're heard, and you don't even know whether or not you're going to have a successful zoning approval. So that's all at risk. So 12 to 15 months. If you sue, that's at least another 12 months. So that'd be 2 years. If a lawsuit were involved, in all likelihood. Engineering and land disturbance permit is anywhere from 7 to 12 months for those two things to take place.
So when I'm thinking back on when Dad and Scott were doing this, if you guys had to put, I don't know, $25,000 at risk, if it's the same dollar for dollar, I don't know what it would be. What that would have been, in my memory, that would have been a pretty big obstacle. That if you are going to drill this dry well by getting all these plans and go through this process and not be able to get paid back for 3 years after you wrote the contract on the land. So you go 12 months on your zoning in today's experience, what we experience today. 12 months on zoning, 12 months on land disturbance permit, 12 months on putting the development on the ground and getting the plat recorded, another 6 months before you're getting paid for the first house that you build. So you're 3.5 years. Y'all guys decided you needed to develop land in 1984. And I remember we were building houses in Ashley Estates in 1985. And so I'm trying to, how we compare what the two businesses.
But at that time, even with the obstacles we had then, we thought they were great obstacles at the time. I did.
I did too.
We could buy the land and be actually building houses in 12 months, less than 12
Yeah.
months.
You could get the land, you could buy the land, get the engineer permitted,
Get the zone.
you could get the zoning done.
Well, the zoning, some of these are already zoned. The one actually, I'm thinking about, I think Ashland Estates was already zoned, wasn't it?
So even at that, you negotiated the land deal, you engineered it, got the permit, got the streets paved, and we're going vertical with houses within 12 months.
Yeah, and we didn't wait on building permits either.
How long a building permit take?
Didn't matter.
Building permits, you walk in the office down there and apply for it, and the lady would sit there and type it out while you're sitting there, and you walk out of there with it 20 minutes later. Now you would smell like smoke, cause she'd be just a puffing the whole time, but it was fine. You know, she did a good job, and
So same day service for.
every county we built in.
So do you know how long it takes now?
I think the last time I looked, Jay was talking about building house in 6 months. I think it's taken about 4 months to get a building permit.
Yeah, most metro counties that we're involved in on the building side, best case, 30 days, 2 weeks to 4 weeks, 30 best case. And that's probably 10% of the municipalities. The other 90% are 1 to 4 months for a building permit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So the barrier to entry that you're alluding to is enormous for a local business person who wants to establish a home building company and actually make money doing it. And it would be, do you think you could, with those type of timelines and those type of investments, I mean, would you even do that today?
We wouldn't be able to for the funding. You know, I mean, people asked us, said, "Why did y'all do this? Why did y'all get up 4 o'clock in the morning, go work and work till late at night?" Well, we didn't know it was optional to start with. We thought you had to do that, and we liked to eat, and we wanted to feed our family. So it was a different kind of time. But today we wouldn't be able to do it. We would have to work for somebody else.
And so you'd be working for one of the public companies, and if you were in the home building business at all.
Wouldn't be. I
don't think we'd ever been able to do it. And Perry, you started to say
So the
something.
vacuum gets filled by the Wall Street companies that can afford to finance that process because they have no choice.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Drives the
there are
cost of
very few local builders and developers anymore.
and it drives the cost of everything up. Just keeps on. I mean, you can't keep waiting to do these things. You started to say something a while ago about we didn't always wait for a building permit.
right now. I'm just
Now you go to jail for that.
Yeah.
oh well.
Well, we got
Actually, we started houses without permits, but I mean, you couldn't get inspection, so you didn't get so far.
Yeah.
And it didn't take, like Scott says, 20 minutes to get a building permit.
So our grandmother, your mother, y'all's mom, and mine, Chris's grandmother, she bought building permits for us, and she started, I think, in 1983, and then she, when did she quit? You were working with us when she was still doing permits.
Early 2000s.
And so at that point, it was still pretty quick. So it's because she didn't wait for weeks on those things, I don't think.
No, she would not.
I remember this vividly. The day she went to Henry County and she came back to the office and she said, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "What, Mama?" She said, "They told me I've got to come back tomorrow." So I was on site the day that Henry County went from being same day building permit to 24-hour building permit. And today it's a 2-step process with an LDP that takes 3 to 8 weeks, depending on the time
Have y'all noticed that all the
or
houses,
the workload.
have y'all noticed that all the houses built prior to the permit process getting longer. They've all fallen down.
Yeah, and I think that what that question points toward is what value is added to the quality, the end product, and also the value to the consumer by adding layers and layers of regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be some value. There's certainly not an equal amount of value to the cost and the time, the cost, time value of money, and the time to the speed to market with the product.
Yeah.
I think the product is better, much better than it was when we started.
In what regard?
But it's not because of regulation. It was because we just all got better. The competition between builders was good, and you had to get better, and you just wanted to get better. Period. But it's better in a normal process rather than a regulatory process.
Mm-hmm. So the fact that people say, I hear it all the time, is they just don't build them like they used to, you'd say that's a good thing. Because I remember us doing a job, we were tearing up here off West Faces Fair.
Yeah.
And doing the demo work, and there was newspaper in the walls as insulation, and some studs were 3x6s and some were 2x6s, and it was just a mess. So you guys develop, and you've got that down where you got that figured out. So now we go forward to about 1990. Y'all are building over 100 homes a year. I don't think we had done 200 yet, had we? By 1990. And so we're doing just over 100 houses a year, I think, in 90. And we went to a zoning meeting, and this is what got me in the land acquisition business. So now I framed houses with these guys, and I ran the framing crews for a bit, and then Dad told me to get a real estate license, so I did, and I got a broker's license after that. And I'm running the sales thing. You're in about 7th grade, I think. And Scott's doing backstop on everything, development, construction, and Dad's running the business. And I remember going in and talking to him one day, and he said, all I wanted to do was build houses. And what he was doing was dealing with taxes and insurance and lenders. And did plan, though. You chose product, and y'all worked on site choices together. But we left a zoning meeting one night. We got turned down. It was an obvious, should have got this thing easy. And it was 7 acres. It was Gwinnett, North Main.
North Main, yeah.
Yeah, so 7 acres. It was zoned for apartments. And we wanted to zone it into 35 or 37 detached houses. Thought it'd be a no-brainer. Well, we get turned down. And so we go walking out in the parking lot, and Dad, I'm 27 years old, and I'm thinking this is going to be my career. And I got a wife and at least one child, probably a second one on the way. Dad says, that's the last zoning I'm ever going to. I've got 12 years of experience. I've got an attorney here that's got this experience. I've got this engineer, and we just got turned down by a dental hygienist, a retired aircraft mechanic, a housewife, a teacher, and I can't remember the other one. And I'm thinking to myself, well, then I can do that. And so I started doing our zoning. We didn't do a lot of zoning back then. And it was not this hard. Now, to Dad's point, it was NIMBYism was always there. We always had the people come out. But the professionalism within staff was good, and staff would make recommendations. Now, Chris, I don't know what your experience is, but I work on deals where staff won't make a recommendation. Have you had any of those? No? Well, that's good. That's good. So
Usually the staff is doing a good job using the ordinances and the land use plans, the future land use plans that these counties are paying big bucks for, and there's a lot that goes into it. They're using that to evaluate the project based on the information that's already been established. There's no emotion in it for most of the staffs that we deal with. And and they make a recommendation based on the facts and based on the legitimacy of the project. There's no politics involved in that part of it. It gets cloudier from that point forward in the process.
Now when we start building houses, we were the leading entry level builder when y'all started. It was 1,400 square foot ranches for the most part, some split levels, a few split foyer plans. Excuse me. Is there a reason you selected that market? Was it just you were comfortable with it? Why did you choose those houses?
That's what our experience was. It was observation, just judging the market best we could, and building what we thought would sell and what did sell, and also what we grew up with. This is the house we could afford.
So weren't those houses typically, like I'm thinking about Meadow Glen, River Bend, Overlook, Biscayne? Those were mostly around 1,400 square feet, weren't they?
14 to 18.
Yeah.
I think would be better.
And Chris,
Some of the early houses though were smaller than that.
Oh yeah, we had houses. Well, most of them started off about 1,400 square feet, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
12 was about the minimum.
yeah,
What was North Main? They were 900 square feet.
yeah.
Yeah. How fast would those sell?
Pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah, we were taking reservations as we was doing the streets. We didn't open the streets. We didn't pave the streets till we finished the last house. Then we had the county worked with us real good on that. I will give Henry County that. They came out. The inspectors came out. They let us build. They let us get the permits. We got through with the subdivision, paved the street. Commissioners came out, cut a ribbon. You know, it was
So you were able to build houses before the street was paved.
we built the houses while we were working on the streets. Yep.
That was 33 years ago, I think. I think that was 92.
But they, you know, they cooperated. We explained to them what we wanted to do, and they cooperated real well, and we really appreciated that. And we were taking deposits on the houses while we were going, and that just I don't think it was with $100. It was just just so people would, you know, go ahead and start.
They sold for
59.9. I think was the base one. 59.9, then 64.9 was this little plan called the Aaron, I think is what it was called.
And I don't know how long it took to sell them, but it didn't take long.
Well, I was curious, and I went and I sat and I sold them, about the first 20 of them, and I went and just sat in my truck and wrote contracts on the hood of the truck, and they were all finished, and they could be occupied within 30 days, and so they sold right away. There was even then there was the missing middle, and the only way we could get that approved was the fact that it had previously been an apartment zoning. So Chris, our company was built on foundation. That was 1,400 square foot houses. What do we have to build now?
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with where you're building, but it is not unusual in a metro Atlanta municipality, county, city, for minimums to start around 1,800, and that's in the code for a lot of zoning categories. But when you go through the zoning process, you get conditions attached to that greatly exceed in many cases the minimums that are in the code. So a developer can apply for zoning. Ordinance says 1,800. A year later, when he gets through the zoning process, the politicians, the political side of it, may decide, the district commissioner may decide, well, what I really want on this project is a 3,000 square foot minimum. A few years ago, we had several projects zoned that had 3,000 square foot minimums placed on the homes. But even at 1,800 as a minimum, the other part of the square footage conversation is that you don't build every house at the minimum square footage. You built some 1,400 square foot houses, you built some 1,800 square foot. Your average back in the 80s might have been 1,600. Well, if the minimum's 18, typically a builder will build an 1,800 square foot. They'll build a 2,200 square foot. That they may even go up to about 3,200 square feet. So about a 1,000, 1,200 square foot range, with an average in that community coming in maybe in the middle somewhere around 2,500, 2,600 square feet. But when you set the minimum at a higher number, obviously that affects the cost of those homes, and it provides very little opportunity for the price elasticity that the market needs to provide housing at a lower price point.
So you mentioned zoning conditions that actually in their zoning ordinance may state 1,800, but by the time you get through, it's been attached to it, this other requirement. Are there other zoning requirements that get added or conditions that get added that affect cost?
Yeah, we've had zonings with 20 to 30 conditions. Some of the conditions apply to the development side. They're amenities, pools, clubhouses, playgrounds, parks. A lot of those things developers choose to do anyway. But the scale of those amenities should be and needs to be dictated by the scale of the neighborhood to be able to finance, and also for the homeowners association to maintain those over time. So some of them are development conditions. Now we have neighborhoods that are required to be gated, private streets. So now those homeowners who are paying taxes to the county are also going to have to pay additional HOA fees for future maintenance on roads, stormwater, those things that counties would normally take care of over time with tax dollars. Other conditions that pertain to the construction side, the home side, would be shingle types, siding materials that are allowed or restricted, whether or not you have overhangs and what the size of those overhangs are, brick and stone accents, percentage requirements on the facades, sod in the yards. Even if it's a large home site, acre plus, many times the entire yard has to be sodded. Driveway widths, driveway lengths, front porch requirements, whether or not they're front roof pitches. Many of these things are not in the ordinances, but some of them are. Many of them aren't, and they show up in the conditions on the zoning. Name some more.
Well, and what occurs to me when you're talking is that we live in an environment that we say we need more and more affordable houses. And went through this exercise with a loan officer recently that a average police officer in the state of Georgia can afford a house today that's roughly just under 1,000 square feet. I remember we routinely, for the first 30 years we were in business, sold houses to all civil servants,
School
teachers, police officers, firemen, and so I think it's the municipalities that have created this void that they can't fill. Do you remember at Pepper Tree, talking about Chris mentioned the siding requirements? There was we changed in the back of that subdivision, went to vinyl siding.
Right.
I remember that being a momentous upgrade when we went to vinyl siding. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Am I overstating it like I did the framing story?
No, I think it was, and
Now we can't put vinyl siding in houses.
no, and we don't want to, but we went to vinyl siding. Part of it was because supply issues with the other side. We had a couple of hurricanes and stuff went.
And that was LP that was by another side, right?
LP and Masonite, and it was, they were shipping all that, all the building supplies. Building supplies started going up. We had a big shortage in it, and so we changed to vinyl siding because of that. I think to start with, that's best I can remember, and it people liked it. I mean, you didn't have to paint it. You could wash it. It was clean. It looked good. Neighborhoods, you go back in, 5 years after you built them out, you could go back in there and everything still looked nice. It wouldn't be, all the houses didn't need painting. So there was some benefits in it.
I'm not fighting for vinyl siding. I've had it on houses I own,
But there's a large percentage of consumers that would prefer it.
yeah.
Not allowed to choose that under current conditions.
You remember Amelia Place in Middle Georgia? That was a military buyer, and they loved it. And I don't remember if we built it front to back with vinyl and we finished with vinyl, but I think we did.
I tell you so.
And it was just
There are markets where vinyl is still prevalent, but not in Metro Atlanta.
yeah. And like I said, I'm not fighting for it, but to arbitrarily make it verboten is arbitrary, and we see no appreciable benefit from it. So, Chris, we talked about the time frame in zoning and the time frame in permitting, and we won't take too long. Excuse me, guys. Can you explain the process? So we put a piece of property under contract from Farmer Jones. What kicks it off, and what are we looking at that point?
Well, the contract comes first, and that process kicks off due diligence, and due diligence is usually 3 to 6 months. And sometime between 3 and 6 months, you're applying for zoning, and then that kicks off this timeline that we talked about.
So right now we've got several zonings being processed. So they receive our plan and our application. And now municipalities are asking us to go through a series of community meetings.
Yeah, there's layers of meetings that range from technical review meetings to community information meetings to advisory board meetings, and then eventually you get to the city council or the board of commissioners, depending on the jurisdiction. And those meetings, there is a calendar, and going in, you would expect that normally the span of that might be 2 to 4 months. But at every one of those steps, they tend to get delayed. They tend to get extended. They tend to make us have multiple technical meetings or multiple community meetings. And then a lot of times once you get through the advisory board meetings, you have a lot of difficulty getting on the calendar for the commission meeting. And so there's a lot of uncertainty on the timeline throughout the entire process.
What's the longest you've seen that take? I'm thinking about the one we've got over here in 54 now.
Yeah, so that's a project that between us and the prior company that worked on it that we were affiliated with has been going on for about 3 years.
And it's not,
And it's still very uncertain.
not zoned yet.
And it's in a jurisdiction where home starts are down. Typical during normal years, we're over 700 to 800 permits a year in this one county, and currently they're less than half that. So there's an obvious need in the market for more inventory, more supply, but the conditions are such that supply can't come to market.
So we're gonna start wrapping it up. Do you guys have any thoughts on what could be better? What could we do better? And if to solve this problem, the problem is affordability. We used to sell houses routinely to people in their early 20s. I remember walking houses when I was in my early 20s with people I went to high school with. Now the average age of a first-time home buyer is 37 years old. What do you think? you guys haven't actively zoned stuff in the last couple of years, but you're here all the time. You know everything's going on. Because it wasn't that easy being. It was better.
I don't know. It was better. We used to have stuff. You go for the first one I remember going to. I had no idea what I was doing. Took whatever aids I could take and wasn't much. And down in Stockbridge, North Bridge Station, and ran through it. And I thought you just applied, went down there cold, and you don't do that, do you? So it's a little more sophisticated than that. So we go down there cold, present it, and the committee there sits up there and who wants to vote on this? Not me. So they table it, and they like to table things because if you table it, you know how to do nothing.
That's right.
They don't have to turn you down. They don't have. So they cost us. Did it cost us a year on that thing?
Yeah, it took a long time.
But we prepared a little better next time. We got a little bit of support somewhere to get that thing done. But I don't know. I wouldn't do it today. I'm retired
Why wouldn't you do it?
because of all the crap y'all go through.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any point in starting a project that's going to take 3 years to get on the ground. Right? How can it work? I'm just in the Bailey Station out there. You got public utilities are giving you a problem.
Wait 6 months on the power company.
And
We're
everybody
2 years into that one now.
regulations change every day. We used to have to worry about floodplain. Now you got to worry about wetland, and they take more property off limits. I don't know. I don't envy
You got
y'all guys at all.
all the detention ponds, all the water quality ponds. It's all just changing, and you're just putting more and more into it.
Well, you would think if there's an affordability, attainability, availability crisis,
Yeah.
which is what I call it.
Yep.
The numbers bear that out. That there would be an effort to enact solutions to solve the crisis. And instead, there's layer after layer after layer of additional regulatory cost that get added, time and money that get added to these projects that exaggerate the crisis.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You better say something, Scott.
No, I wouldn't do it again either. I am grateful and thank God for where we're at today, and for the opportunity to have done something I love doing. But to do it again in today, yeah, I'm so thankful for y'all and proud of y'all for enduring all this and continue to keep.
I have a dumb saying. I love home building, but it hates me back. And a lot of it has to do with completely unnecessary.
It is.
The regulatory environment that has gone off the rails.
Yeah, 100%. You know, yesterday I read an article.
And the real victim is not us.
No,
The real victim
it's the buyer.
are people that are trying to buy their first home or even their last home that don't want to be house poor and whose incomes haven't increased exponentially over the last 5 to 10 years, or who are just getting out of school with their first or second job. Those are the victims.
Yeah, for sure. And we all
And we could solve it.
oh, it's easy, but we're all paying for it because these birth rates are going down. I know my kids are ranging in age from 29 to 35, and I know they're contemporaries, and some of them are waiting to make choices on marriage, and they're waiting to make choices on having children because they don't have a home. You know, we programmed that on you. You go to high school, go to college, fall in love, get married, buy your first home, start your family. Well, now, if you can't buy a house till you're 37 years old, I was 14 years old when you were 37, and that would have been awful living in an apartment with it.
My first house was, I find, at $70,000. I was 22 years old. My mortgage rate was 6.875%, and my monthly payment was $560 a month. and I was making $15 an hour right out of college, and I had plenty of money to live on
Mm-hmm.
because cost of living was dramatically different and cost of housing was dramatically different.
For sure. So I read yesterday that Scott Bessent was talking about Donald Trump is going to have a housing or announce an emergency housing affordability emergency or housing affordability crisis, and that's going to be the focus this fall, streamlining all the permitting processes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there reading that and thinking, okay, how are you going to do that? Because we don't permit at the federal level. And they said, and we are not going to intervene in state and municipal ordinances. In my opinion, then don't waste your time,
That's right.
because unless they're talking about some uniform code stuff, unless you're going to make the code uniform regarding density, house size, lot size, all those things, then what are you going to do? Are you going to do a $20 billion down payment assistance program? That's okay. That'll be good for 6 months, and we'll get a little brief high off that.
And we don't need subsidies, we need solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And we invite the local governments and we invite the local communities into helping us craft every community we develop and every house we build. We invite them into that conversation in multiple ways. They almost never invite us into the conversation about providing solutions to solve the crisis. We ask them to. We ask them for meetings. We ask them for workshops. We ask them for sessions where if architecture is important to you, fine. Let's talk about architecture and collaborate. If lot size, all those things that they say are important, they don't invite us. What they do is they make decisions and then they dictate. And we just have to provide whatever we can at that cost and go to market with that, which is why affordability is out of control.
Yeah, and in closing, all this can be, some of this is factual history, but a lot of this stuff could be just our opinion. But what's not our opinion is that 70% of Americans cannot afford a home. And what's not an opinion is that 65% of the homes built in our market are being built by publicly traded builders. You know, we have, Chris, you're second generation, I'm second generation home builder. My children are in the building and they're third generation home builders. And who knows, Seth's going to be an engineer. Maybe he's going to be fourth. No, he'll be third. That's right. He'll be third. I can't count either that. But I don't see, I hate the idea that ending with our family. That used to be the way this business was run. It was multi-generational. People learned the trade, they exercised it, and they taught their kids, and the ones that are interested would pursue it. And we know several of those kind of families. And so it'd be a shame. And when people, you know, the municipalities complain all the time when I go to these meetings about how the homes all look the same. Well, one, they created an environment where only a limited number of large builders can afford to be in the game in those markets. We're in a very unique situation with the fact that we've got a large pipeline and 5 decades of a foundation behind us. But the municipality limits the number of guys who can build a house. They also define the width of the lot, how far that house has to set from the sideline, how far it has to set from the street, how many square feet it has to have, what kind of material you can use on it, what kind of pitch the roof it can have, what kind of tree you can plant and where, how many cars must be able to park in the driveway. Well, they designed 80% of the house. We don't have a lot left to be creative with. But we try. And I think that's why we've been successful is we try hard. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing your time with us. And I think it's really helpful that the audience can see, anybody who's interested, that there was a day you could just roll up your sleeves, go work hard, sacrifice. It wasn't easy. I mean, I'm not going to say it was more available to the young, hardworking entrepreneur than it is today. But you still had to be a young, hardworking entrepreneur to make that happen. So thank you for all of us that did make that happen. But I think it is encouraging to see that that was available. And honestly, it should be available again. With that, we'll close. Everyone, thank you for joining Build Baby Build, and we'll see you next time.